February's signing day marks the unofficial end to the 2024 recruiting cycle, but today we put a bow on the 2024 rankings with our final Top 247 reveal. We've been writing in pencil for the last year, but today, pull out the Sharpie. Plus, the Polynesian Bowl created highlight after highlight over the weekend. Our Blair Angulo actually caught up with Nebraska signee Dylan Raiola. You'll hear from him and from our analysts who were there. And it's Free Game Monday. Smoke Dixon tells it like it is and gives out free recruiting advice. You won't want to miss it. All that and more as the college football recruiting show starts right now. Alongside national recruiting analyst Cooper Patagna and our director of scouting, joining us remotely, Andrew Ivins. I'm Emily Proud. A reminder to submit your questions in the chat. We love to answer your questions. You can subscribe to the 24/7 Sports YouTube channel to access said chat. Also, one more thing, please like this video so we know that you're watching because it is a big day here at the 24/7 Sports headquarters. We are revealing our final Top 247 rankings. I just said it, we are using Sharpie to write these rankings, so it is a very exciting day. I'll start with you, Andrew, though. First, lay out for us, what does the process look like that gets the scouting group to a day like today where we're ready to rubber stamp it and say it's the final ranking?
Well, we've got to see a lot of these guys in person over the past 2 to 3 weeks, whether that was at the All-American Bowl or the Under Armour game or the Polynesian Bowl out in Hawaii, which was this past weekend. Of our new Top 247, we saw 130 of those guys in person, whether it be at practice, in a game, a padded setting, and that's super unique for us. We said it before the early signing period. I know a lot of these guys have already put pen to paper. Heck, most of them are already at the college of their choice going through bowl practices. But for us, this is that real evaluation where you get good on good, best on best. And it's like the Senior Bowl. It's like the scouting combine. You get all these guys in the same area. Yes, this year the All-Star games lacked the star power when it came to the quarterbacks, but a ton of these other positions, wide receiver, defensive back. I mean, this was a real opportunity for us to stack these guys. So a lot of evaluations and then sitting down and figuring out, all right, who do we want to put where and what does our final 32 look like when it comes to those 5 stars?
We will break down the 32 5-stars, but it is a full Top 247, and we have some newcomers to the group. 12 total new Top 247 names here. Cooper, I'm going to start with you. Wisconsin offensive tackle Emerson Mandel jumping into the Top 247. What have you seen from him that warrants that jump?
Yeah, we snuck him in at 230, and I got to give a lot of credit to our friend Hudson Standish and our scouting group. And this guy, 6'5", 295 pounds. We love the track and field background and the shot put and the disc. Really, really powerful at the point of attack. You see the lead hands, his ability to move defenders off the line of scrimmage. He can play tackle, he can play guard. And you think about Wisconsin. How about Wisconsin? Luke Fickell, they got a top 25 class. They have 5 players in the top 247. You go back to 3 years ago at the University of Cincinnati in Luke Fickell. Look at what he was able to do from a player development standpoint. 9 guys drafted. That was only behind Alabama and LSU that year. So Wisconsin, you know, the dust settles a little bit. That's a team to look out for here.
Cooper, you bring up a corner protector. I'm going to go with a corner attacker, Booker Pickett. This was a kid we saw at the Under Armour game. We saw him at the Polynesian Bowl out there in Hawaii. And he got to the quarterback both times. In the Under Armour game, he had 2 sacks. He had an interception and another sack in the Polynesian Bowl. And it shouldn't be surprising. We're talking about a kid that had 76 sacks in 42 career games there at Tampa Wharton High School. There were some questions about, how big can he get? Can he be a true edge player? After sizing him up in person, I think he can. And I'll say this, I think Booker Pickett, his ability to retrace and drop back into coverage, I think he could also play some off-ball linebackers. So throughout the cycle, we've highlighted Miami's defensive line haul, and it looks like they're getting a good one in Booker Pickett, who we shoot up the board.
All right, so those are some newcomers. We also saw some massive risers in this final ranking. I want to mention another Wisconsin offensive tackle, Kevin Haywood, jumping from 189 to 50. You've got Jordan Shipp, another guy we want to discuss, up from 212 to 91. Andrew, let's start with Haywood, though. Why this big rise for him?
Well, he was an instant eye catcher at the All-American Bowl there in San Antonio. Came in at over 6'5", big arms, 35-inch arms, huge hands. And then when you turn on the senior tape, you're like, okay, this guy looks like someone that could be playing on Sundays at some point down the line. Normally with these offensive tackles, you want to see kind of a multi-sport background. Kevin Haywood played basketball. I played some hockey growing up, but his focus has been on offense here really since he started high school. We thought he had an excellent week at the AAB. And like Cooper said, I mean, Luke Fickell loading up with potential NFL guys. Kevin Haywood, a name to know for some point down the line.
Drew, I'm going to go with another guy who had a big week in San Antonio. How about Jordan Shipp? Up over 100 spots. It's easy to get lost at Providence Day High School. You got guys like Jaden Davis, Channing Goodwin, both on their way to Ann Arbor. What about Jordan Shipp? He had a huge week in San Antonio that Wednesday, that joint practice. He really lit it up. This was a guy that was really hard to cover. 190 pounds, just over 6 feet, back-to-back 1,000-yard receiving years at Providence Day. You start to dig into him more and more. There's so much to like about him. North Carolina going to get a guy that should be able to contribute pretty early there in Chapel Hill.
All right, so those are the headliners in the top 247, but the ultimate headliners are, of course, the 5 stars. So for that, let's start revealing. At number 32 is where we begin here, and that is where you'll find wide receiver Ryan Wingo. He is currently signed with Texas.
He's a height, weight, speed guy, someone that can stretch the field, great after the catch. He joins a loaded wide receiver room there in Austin. I think he's a guy that could end up being a top target for Arch Manning or whoever's throwing passes for UT at some point down the line.
Coming in at number 31, cornerback Xavier Mincy, currently signed with Alabama.
Big mover for us, up 40 spots. You love this guy. We thought maybe a safety. I think he can stick at corner. Super long, 6'1", 33-inch plus arms. Another guy with a really good week in San Antonio. Think about Alabama. You think about guys like Terry and Arnold being able to play that nickel spot. I love the position versatility with Xavier Mincy.
At number 30, edge Amaris Williams, signing with Auburn.
One of my favorite guys I watched on tape as a senior. Look, he is 6'2", but he's got big 35-inch arms. Former running back that's just figuring out how to rush the passer. His ability to bend, redirect, it's all there. He has a chance to morph into a pest up front for the Tigers.
Coming in at number 29, the number 1 tight end in this class, Luke Reynolds. He is signed with Penn State.
Oyster Boys' favorite. We have loved this guy from the onset. Impressed in LA at the Elite 11 finals as a tight end. This guy can do it all. 4'5'6", 38-inch vert, basketball background, offense, defense, a little bit of everything. The lone tight end in the top 32. Penn State getting a hell of a player in Luke Reynolds.
At 28, edge Colin Simmons, who is signed with Texas.
Yeah, Emily, this is a guy I wish we had saw at the Under Armour All-America game. He was dealing with an ankle injury, so we didn't, but we love the tape. 3 sacks in the state title game as a senior. That was an MVP-like performance. He's one of the best speed rushers in the class, and he has produced for 3 straight years there in the Lone Star State.
A new 5-star coming in at 27, wide receiver Gatlin Bear. He is currently uncommitted.
The man they called the Bears got a 10.18 in the 100-meter to his name. We all knew that this guy could run, take the top off of defense. We wanted to know what the rest of the route tree looked like. He's coming from Idaho. This guy impressed in San Antonio. He looked like one of the best players on the field, regardless of the position. Wednesday, joint practice, another standout performance. Gatlin Bear going to be a huge, huge get for somebody.
26 in the rankings, but number 1 in the name game, edge Elijah Rushing, who is currently signed with Oregon.
Yeah, another guy we were hoping to see at one of these all-star events, but Oregon had different plans. Huge monster frame, and you're going to notice that's a theme in our top 32. A guy that took a step forward, not only from his sophomore to junior season, but junior to senior seasons, can win with both speed and power. And I love his ability to disengage and chase the quarterback.
Our 3rd wide receiver on this list, Micah Hudson, coming in at 25. He is signed with Texas Tech.
One of the best pure receivers, football players in the country. You see the pro comp right there. Garrett Wilson, another guy out of Texas in that Lake Travis area. But how about Micah Hudson? You think about Micah Hudson, it's his ability after the catch. And this guy's down the field playmaking ability, going to be a day 1 impact player in Lubbock for Joey McGuire.
At number 24, defensive lineman Bryce Young. He is signed with Notre Dame.
And he's got some elite bloodlines. Father Bryant Young in the NFL Hall of Fame. We love this kid's off-the-field profile. He wrestles, he does track and field events, and then he shows up to the All-American Bowl and he brings a ton of energy to practices inside the Alamo Dome. Huge upside prospect. Looks to just be finding his groove. And for Marcus Freeman and the Irish, we've been saying that these are the type of guys they need to land. They get the job done. Bryce Young headed to Notre Dame.
He's a new 5-star. We got another one coming in at 23, linebacker Chris Cole. He is signed with Georgia.
First dude off the bus, 6'3", 210 pounds, can do a little bit of everything. He's only been playing linebacker for 1 year out of the state of Virginia. You think about Georgia and what they do. How about the linebackers last year? C.J. Allen, Raylan Wilson. They bring and follow that up with a guy like Chris Cole. Unbelievable depth there, top-end talent. Chris Cole going to certainly add another layer to that Georgia linebacker room.
At number 22, cornerback Xavier Brown. He is signed with Alabama.
And he's a technician, Emily. I think he's one of the smoothest corners we have come across in recent cycles. Playing his best football right now. 3 interceptions in his final 5 games. Shows up to the All-American Bowl. One of the only guys that can match up with Jeremiah Smith, and we're going to get to him later.
Coming in at 21, wide receiver TJ Moore. He is signed with Clemson. And we're going to stop here, guys. Coop, Moore was previously ranked number 102, meaning that he jumped 81 spots in this final ranking. What did you see from him that warranted that big jump?
He had a dominant week. I mean, you think about the players there in San Antonio, in Orlando, at the Under Armour All-America game. We have seen 19 of the top 20 receivers in the country over the last month or so. TJ Moore was that guy that showed up, and he was one of the best players in the country. 6'3", 195 pounds, got a lot of wiggle to him. Super sudden, can create separation. And then you talk about his ability to attack the football. Reminds us of a guy that used to play his ball at Clemson and T. Higgins. So he's got a lot of bounce. He's got a lot of natural athleticism in his game. He can do a little bit of everything. He surprised us, which is a great thing for Clemson. I think he can also make an impact early there for Dabo Swinney.
Yeah, Coop, and he's a little young for his grade, 6'3" in the high jump, like you said. Measured way better than we thought when he showed up there in San Antonio. I think this is a monster pickup for Clemson because we know Dabo Swinney and the Tigers, they're not going to go get guys in the transfer portal. They need people to step in right away. To me, TJ Moore, you brought up T. Higgins in that comp. He reminds me of a wide receiver of old at Clemson, one of these perimeter playmakers. Love his hand-eye coordination. Big week for him. 10 catches, over 150 yards in that All-American Bowl.
Another wide receiver earning a 5th star in this group is Gatlin Bair. We mentioned it. Whoever ends up landing him, because he is currently uncommitted. Coop, what kind of player are they getting?
Getting a potential receiver 1. We still don't know the full scope of Gatlin Bair. We got to see him in San Antonio. He looked like he belonged. This is a guy that's going to go on a mission. So we might not see him for 2 more years at this point, but you talk about the rare physical ability that he has. A lot of people are going to talk about the speed. He had tape that kind of reminded me a little bit of Brock Bowers, and people will say, well, Brock Bowers is a tight end. Well, he did everything as well. He played running back, receiver, played outside linebacker. You turn on the tape of a guy like Gatlin Bair. He did those same things as well. So a multi-dimensional playmaker can beat you a lot of different ways. I think he really kind of caught our eye by showing what he can do laterally as well. Not just a vertical threat, but in terms of that expanded route tree, he was exceptional there too.
I'll have to wait a little bit to see him play in college, but we might not have to wait too long to find out where he chooses to play. Andrew, several guys in this range jumping up to earn that 5th star. You heard me mention them: Bryce Young, Chris Cole, and Xavier Brown. You've been a big fan of Brown's for a long time. So what is it about this Alabama signee that makes him so special?
I said it. I mean, he's a technician, right? It's the footwork. I think it's his ability to play both press man, off man coverage. It's all there. And I think sometimes a lot of us get tied up in these track times with cornerbacks. Yeah, Xavier Brown is not a sub-11 guy. He's 11-1 in the 100-meter dash. But to me, he's frequently in the right place, so you don't need to worry about that recovery speed because he's not going to get beat deep. Xavier Brown, when he showed up to the All-American Bowl, was a few days late because he was already going through bowl practices with the Crimson Tide. I begged him to come into our room just so we could get some arm measurements in his height. I had a hunch he was on the longer side. Turns out he is. Now, look, he's a 5-star prospect.
Yeah, Drew, you're talking about Xavier Brown. How about Bryce Young, another guy you talked about earlier? And you think about Bryce Young, you talked about the genetics. His dad, Bryant Young, a first ballot Hall of Famer, and then you think about him going in the first round of the NFL draft. We always talk about ascending players. Where are they at the end of their high school careers? And that's what Bryce Young is. We saw him up close, personal. This is a guy who won his fair share of one-on-ones, but the motor ran hot. He's also a guy that's got a lot of growing to do physically as well. So you think about all those physical tools and what Marcus Freeman and that strength conditioning program in South Bend can do for a guy like Bryce Young. This is the type of guy that we feel really comfortable putting in our top 32 and can't wait to see what he can do at the next level.
All right, guys, let's recap the top 32 through 27. We mentioned a few of the newcomers like Amaris Williams, Xavier Mincy, Gatlin Bear. Moving on through 26 to 21, got that massive jump for TJ Moore, also Xavier Brown, Chris Cole. But let's keep the reveal going, and that is where we're going to find our first quarterback. At number 20, it's Julian Sayin, who, if you've been paying attention to the news, he originally enrolled at Alabama but is now transferred and committed to Ohio State.
We think he's got the highest floor of all these quarterbacks, 70.3% career completion percentage. Tossed just one interception as a senior on 212 pass attempts. He's crafty in the pocket, probably doesn't get enough credit for how good of an athlete he is. And most importantly, pinpoint with the accuracy. He won MVP of the Elite 11 finals back in the summer months, and that's because he was the most consistent all 3 days.
At 19, Edge Dylan Stewart. He is signed with South Carolina.
Yeah, you talk about a day one ready prospect at the next level. How about Dylan Stewart? This guy can do a little bit of everything. Kind of a difficult evaluation. We didn't have a lot of verified information on him. He's playing off-ball linebacker. We knew he was going to play edge at the next level. You think about South Carolina, the job that they've done in D.C. How about 5-star Nicholas Harbor last year? Tree Babalade starts a tackle for them. Now they go back in that area, get a guy like Dylan Stewart, who I think can play day one for Shane Beamer.
At number 18, defensive lineman Dominic McKinley. He is committed to LSU.
Big functional athlete. We hadn't really got eyes on him until the Under Armour All-America game. He aced that eye test. I mean, he has the frame you're looking for a trench player in the SEC. And what really impressed us is how nasty he got at the point of attack there during one-on-ones. Talk about a guy with an arrow pointing up. Dominic McKinley fits the bill.
Another defensive lineman at 17, David Stone. He is signed with Oklahoma.
Puts you to sleep with how good he is. He's just Mr. Consistent. He's kind of been a steadfast player for us inside the top 32. Oklahoma getting a dog, 35-inch arm, 7-foot wingspan, can play a lot of different positions on the defensive line. So I love the versatility, love the consistency. The other thing, the motor runs hot. If you look for a consistent theme in defensive linemen that can play early in a conference like the SEC, look at the motor, that's David Stone.
At 16, the number one athlete in the class, Terry Bussey. He is committed to Texas A&M.
Is he a wide receiver? Is he a DB? We're still going back and forth. Terry Bussey with an interception in the Polynesian Bowl. Look, special athlete. Just kind of one of those kids where whatever he does, he's going to excel at. Biggest takeaway coming out of the Under Armour All-American game, he is ready to go from a physical standpoint year one.
Speaking of ready to go, how about number 15, the top safety, KJ Bolden, signed with Georgia.
I love this guy. Can do everything you ask. Can play man-to-man. Can play the deep hash. Can do anything that you want. Three-phase player at Buford. You think about speed, toughness, instincts. What is a program like Alabama, Georgia, Baltimore Ravens at the NFL level, the AFC North? That's kind of what he reminds me of. He does everything. You talk about guys that can play early, especially on special teams. This is a guy, I love the versatility, can play that star position at UGA, complements Malachi Starks very well. So you think about Georgia, KJ Bolden. I love this fit more than any other player in the class.
At 14, the freakiest player in the class, linebacker Sammy Brown, who is signed with Clemson.
Emily, I had that written down right here. My number one freak in the 2024 cycle. We've talked about the track times. We talked about what he's done on the wrestling mat, in the weight room. It's that two-way production is really why he's sitting where he is inside the top 32. You want to see guys, off-ball linebackers, get the job done on both sides of the ball. Sammy Brown can do just that. He was the heart and soul of his team there at Jefferson High School. Got hurt in the playoffs. Team folded right away. I think he's going to be a leader for Dabo Swinney and the Tigers, and I think that's going to be clear very early on.
At lucky number 13, the number one and only offensive tackle, who is a 5-star, Jordan Seaton, who is signed with Colorado.
Most complete tackle in the class, can play guard, the guy who's completely changed his body as a senior at IMG. Colorado, unique situation. They need a guy that can come in, step in, and play day one. That's Jordan Seaton. He might be the only tackle in the country that's capable of doing that. Deion Sanders needed this one. He got it done.
At 12, quarterback Jalen Mbakwe, who is signed with Alabama.
Might be the tallest 5'11" defensive back in the class. He looked 6'1" to me there in Orlando. This is a kid that played quarterbacks exclusively as a senior. His team needed that. What led them to a state title. We wanted to see him in coverage. What would he look like in one-on-ones? He was excellent in Orlando. Sticky in coverage. I mean, this is a guy that can, work the field side, work on the inside. Really like the fit at Alabama. He's a playmaker.
At number 11, defensive lineman Justin Scott. He is signed with Miami.
Just scratching the surface of what he's going to be, 6'4", 310 pounds, had a solid week in San Antonio at the All-American Bowl. And how about this? How about Jason Taylor, the guys that he's going to be lining up with, Ruben Bain, Marquise Lightfoot, Armando Blunt, Miami, getting it done on the defensive line.
All right, I got to pause for a second and ask my man Andrew about this secondary for Alabama. Everybody's concerned about Caleb Downs transferring away, but I just listed off 3 5-star corners that are signed for Alabama coming in this class. So overall, looking at this group, how special can they be?
Well, it's the parting gift from Nick Saban, right? Xavier Brown, Zay Mincy, Jalen Mbakwe. I just love how all three of these guys are a little bit different. I think all three of them could eventually be starting together in the same secondary. I think Xavier Brown, someone you play on the outside. Jalen Mbakwe, you can play in the slot. And then Zay Mincy's really the wild card. I mean, we were looking for corners to get into that 32. We had him listed as a safety, saw him in San Antonio. We're like, all right, let's just make this guy. We'll figure it out later. I think Alabama's going to do the same. So, yes, they lose Caleb Downs, but Kalen DeBoer, we'll see if he can hold on to these individuals, but they have a chance, all three of them, to be early round NFL draft picks.
Drew makes a great point. The first thing I think about when I think about these 3 DBs is that all these guys can play together. Drew just said it. Zay Mincy, corner, safety, can play multiple positions. I think you look at a guy like Mbakwe as well, can also play the nickel, can play the deep hash, can do a little bit of everything. And then Xavier Brown is kind of that technically put together corner that can play on the outside. I love Jalen Mbakwe, what he's going to be. The one thing we don't talk about with him, he is so dynamic with the ball in his hands. We talk a lot about Terry Bussey playing offense. How about Jalen Mbakwe in the return game? You want to talk about making your presence known as a freshman. Don't be surprised if Jalen Mbakwe gets his hands on a couple and takes it to the house.
Learn the name. We appreciate you watching, and we very much appreciate our scouting team for all the effort and work that they put in to getting these rankings out. So if you don't mind, go ahead and hit that like button, show the love, because we have way more to talk about. We've not gotten to our top 10 yet, but I got a few more questions. We've mentioned just how important these in-person evaluations are and just how busy you guys have been on the road during the month of January. Coop, you saw Dominic McKinley at the All-American Bowl just a few weeks ago. What did you see in that game that solidified him as a 5-star?
Well, we didn't know off the tape. We kind of held our breath, right? So we're waiting to Orlando, to kind of wait and see what we were going to get with Dominic McKinley. And then you see this guy in person, elite size, elite frame. You see the arm length as well, but the quick twitch, explosiveness, the heavy hands, his ability to penetrate consistently. He was a guy that was a handful throughout the week. And then you kind of match him up with guys like David Stone, who also performed well. I think Dominic McKinley is just really starting to figure it out. And then you think about Bo Davis coming over to LSU from Texas. So you put that combination together, his ability to develop at the next level. I think he's going to take a little bit of time, but he's one of those guys 3 or 4 years from now we look up. I wouldn't be surprised if he's a top 10 draft choice.
Yeah, I love the Gervin Dexter comp for him. He was another guy that was at the Under Armour game who we shot up in the rankings, back in 2020. What also stands out about Dominique McKinley Cooper, you talk to a lot of different recruiting departments, guys that had this kid on campus. They say he's soft-spoken. He shows up, checks into the Under Armour game. I kind of thought the same thing. Hey, it's this big, gentle giant. And then I said it earlier, we see him in the one-on-ones, and he's got that nasty streak to him. So that's something that's super important for us. We're in these all-star games. Hey, what do these guys look like? Maybe not rep to rep, but how do they handle themselves? Are they competitors? Are they getting in the face of other individuals? I think Dominique McKinley really answered a lot of questions for us, kind of outside of the lines a few weeks ago.
Love to hear a defensive lineman that has a nasty streak. That's exactly what you're looking for. You are looking at our 22-11 rankings. A few of the top players at their position in this grouping. We mentioned the top offensive tackle, Jordan Seaton, the top safety, the top athlete. And speaking of top, let's do it. Let's hit that top 10. Starting at number 10, the number 1 linebacker in this group, Justin Williams. He is signed with Georgia.
Yep, turbocharged linebacker, ready to play frame. Georgia absolutely loaded up at the second level of the defense last cycle. And as crazy as this is going to sound, I think Justin Williams is my favorite of the bunch. He's a guy that I think is going to come in right away, challenge for playing time, former running back, but the instincts are there. He flows extremely well to the football, and he offers a ton of value as a blitzer.
At number 9, the top edge prospect in this group, Jordan Ross. He is signed with Tennessee.
I fall more and more in love with Jordan Ross the more I watch him. He is one of my favorite players in this class. So explosive off the edge, a guy that is so fluid, can bend the edge, so active. You love the run and chase. You love the effort. You can drop him in coverage, can do a little bit of everything. He's put on good weight, 15 pounds. He's probably up to 230 pounds. I love Jordan Ross. And you talk about a guy that's just keep getting better and better. I love his trajectory in Knoxville.
A big theme of this class coming in at number 8, wide receivers. Ryan Williams, he actually reclassified from the 2025 class, was once committed to Alabama, but is currently uncommitted.
I got to give Cooper some credit here. You saw that player comp up there, Devontae Smith. That's a big one, but I think it fits. The shoe fits after we saw Ryan Williams at the Mississippi-Alabama game and then again at the Under Armour game in Orlando. One of our top wide receivers. He's dynamic with the ball in his hands. Yes, he reclassified. He's going to miss his senior year, but he's a back-to-back Mr. Football in Alabama. This guy is the real deal.
At number 7, quarterback Dylan Raiola. He is signed with Nebraska.
Best pure passer in this class. I think that's pretty safe to say. 11-2 at Buford. The competition level kind of up this year, went 65% completion rate, 34 touchdowns, 1 interception. I love the way he fit in that offense. I think that's what they need to do at Nebraska in Lincoln as well. Here's the other thing, the flip side of that, 4 different programs in 4 years. He needs some continuity. I think he's going to have to sit a year as well. That's going to benefit Dylan Raiola. Love the fit with Nebraska in Matt Rule.
At number 6, defensive lineman Williams Nwaneri. He is signed with Mizzou.
He's got one of the longest wingspans in the class, prototypical frame, just oozing with upside. I thought he actually kind of struggled first few practices at the Under Armour game. Then he came alive during the actual contest there inside Camping World Stadium. He can run, he can bend, he can get after the quarterback. So Williams and Nwaneri might need a little bit of an adjustment period there at Missouri, but this is a guy you're going to see on your TV screens.
At number 5, wide receiver Cameron Coleman. He is signed with Auburn.
He doesn't turn 18 until August. He's a puppy, but he's actually a grown man. This is a guy that has doubled his production in every major statistical category. You see his ability to attack the football down the field. He is a walking mismatch. You think about Auburn, what they've been able to do with that receiving core, Cam Coleman, Perry Thompson. This is a day one game changer for Hugh Freeze on the Plains. Watch out for Cam Coleman.
At number 4, the top defensive lineman in the class, L.J. McCray. He is signed with Florida.
Another long-limbed creature up front. Cooper talked about Cam Coleman doubling his production. L.J. McCray tripled his production between his junior and senior seasons. We saw him in San Antonio. He had a ton of success, and the crazy thing is, he's just a baby as well, that he has a chance to add 20, 30 pounds when he gets there in Gainesville, and I think he's going to be a guy that makes an impact right away.
Another Gator coming in at number 3. We have a new top QB. It's DJ Lagway, who is signed with Florida.
How about a rocket being attached to this guy? Not only on the field, but in our rankings as well. The number one quarterback in the country. He's just gotten better and better every single year as a sophomore. 55% completion rate. The next year, 67. This next year, 72%. 12-1 on the field. You talk about a guy that can do it all. Legitimate baseball prospect as well. 4,000 yards passing. Over 900 yards rushing, 59 touchdowns, 8 INTs, Gatorade Player of the Year, all the accolades. This dude is wired the right way. I love the physical makeup, but you talk about in between the ears as well. DJ Lagway has it all.
From the number one quarter to the number one cornerback, that is Ellis Robinson. The number 2 player in the class is signed with Georgia.
I'm not sure I've ever seen a better performance from a defensive back at the Under Armour All-American game than Ellis Robinson, day 3 of practices. He shut down one side of the field, had 3 interceptions. He was matched up consistently with Cam Coleman. This is how you want a new age cornerback to look. He's tall, he's fast, and he can go get the football. Ellis Robinson was excellent at IMG Academy. I think he's going to challenge for a starting cornerback role year 1 at Georgia.
And you see it, the number 1 player in the class, the number 1 wide receiver. It's Jeremiah Smith. He is signed with Ohio State, and there you have it. He remains the number 1 player in the class. Andrew, you've been open about this. You had your doubts, but what ultimately helped solidify his top spot?
Well, Emily, I'm going to be honest. I mean, we came into the All-Star games open to the idea of someone else finishing number 1 in the rankings. Jeremiah Smith just quickly closed the door on that. And he's a guy that did not have to participate in the All-American Bowl. I was actually eating dinner last night going through my old evaluations on Jeremiah Smith. It has been the same story now for 3 consecutive years, but he showed up in San Antonio, he put on a show, and he dominated. He scored the first touchdown in the game. This is a guy that might not go number 1 in the NFL in the NFL draft, which is important. The NFL draft serves as the compass for our rankings, but I think if you ask Cooper, you ask the rest of the guys on our ranking staff, we feel the best about him eventually going in the top 10. He's got that huge frame. Do not think he gets enough credit for what he can do after the catch. He is extremely advanced, and there's a reason why so many schools wanted him, and that recruitment went all the way to the 11th hour.
And we know how special the player Jeremiah Smith is. How about the person? He showed up, San Antonio, pro mentality, workman's mentality. You talk about what they're getting at Ohio State. This is a guy that we've compared to guys like Marvin Harrison. You think about that maturity, right, that he brings to Columbus. I expect him to be one of the best players at his position from day 1 when he steps on campus in Columbus. This guy, 210 pounds, over 6'3". He's got everything that you could possibly want at the receiver position. If you built him in a lab, they would look like Jeremiah Smith. So we love him. He is a clean player, and he is wired the right way. I love the way that he attacks his process as well.
Yeah, wouldn't just look like Jeremiah Smith and play like Jeremiah Smith, but act like him too, just the way that he carries himself. Next level, congratulations to him as the top spot. Let's talk about the quarterbacks. DJ Lagway jumping Dylan Raiola to take the title of top quarterback in 2024. Both guys super impressive, though, anytime they suit up. Coop, what have you seen, though, from DJ Lagway recently?
He's a winner. They won 12 games this year at Willis High School, and that's the first time that they've been that far in the playoffs in over 60 years, right? So when you talk about the quarterback position, you talk about a franchise position. Is this a guy you win with or because of? That is DJ Lagway. You think about all the physical tools, gifts that he has, the variety of ways that he can beat you. The other thing about this with DJ Lagway, he is starting to play the game and not reacting to it. So DJ Lagway now a proactive player versus a reactive player, which is what he was as a sophomore. I love everything that this guy can do. You got to find a way to get him on the field as a freshman. I think by year 2, he's going to be ready to roll.
And just to follow up here, Cooper, I mean, we think he has the highest ceiling of these quarterbacks. Needs to keep improving as a passer, but his ability to create chunk plays with his legs, get it all the way down the field, that separates him from the rest of the field. NFL scouts drooled over Anthony Richardson. We've compared DJ Lagway a little bit to Anthony Richardson. We haven't really had a perfect comp, but this is a guy that if it all comes together, you're going to hear his name called early on in the NFL draft.
All right, I know the focus always wants to be on the quarterback position, but looking at this 5-star class, I mean, what a year for the wide receivers. You have 7 5-stars, 8 if you include Bussy. So what is it about this group of pass catchers that is so special?
I think it's just unique. It's a ton of different variety in terms of skill sets, different sizes. You can throw the tight ends into the mix. I mean, if you were looking for a wide receiver, this was the year because there was a plenty to go around. I think, a lot of these guys are going to be fighting for spots on that annual 24/7 Sports True Freshman All-American list. I don't envy Chris Hummer having to pick 3 of them.
Yeah, those top 3, Drew, to me, Jeremiah Smith, Cam Coleman, Ryan Williams, they're special. I kind of get a little icky thinking about 3 receivers in the top 10, but you go back, you watch the tape, the film does not lie. You add in everything else in terms of the physical traits as well. You think about 3 guys that can make an immediate impact at the next level, receiver ones, and 3 guys ultimately at the end of the day, I think can go into the top half of the NFL draft here in 3 to 4 years. That's all 3 of those guys right there.
So be sure to check back in the NFL draft. In 3 to 4 years, you're going to see just a run on wide receivers, which we have seen in the past. Again, this is all based on the first round of the NFL draft. Thank you both. Thank you to our entire scouting team for all the hard work you put in. It's got to feel good to say goodbye to this group and just move on to 2025, right? The work just continues. But thank you both so much for your insight. All right, let's show you 1 through 10 again, just to recap. Jeremiah Smith, once again, the #1 player in the land. Ellis Robinson, DJ Lagway, LJ McCray, Cam Coleman, all rounding out that top 5. Now, that is just a taste of the entirely refreshed and final top 247 rankings. So to check out that full list, head to 247sports.com. Plus, it is just rankings week for our basketball team. They're releasing 2024, 2025, and 26 rankings this week, so check it out. One more thing, look at these guys. If you want to hear more from those 2 members of our scouting team, make sure that you are listening to the 24/7 Sports Football Recruiting Podcast. Watch it at 5 Eastern on Tuesdays and Wednesdays right here on the 24/7 Sports YouTube page. Or if you're like me and you like your podcast, listen wherever you get them. Let's hit some headlines. It has been a busy week in the world of college football, but in recruiting news, the #2 quarterback in the 2025 class is off the board. George MacIntyre announcing his commitment to Tennessee. The top 10 player from Brentwood Academy watched the basketballs take down Alabama on Saturday, and then 2 days later picked the footballs over the Tide. Elsewhere, in the 2025 class, the top edge prospect, Zion Grady, decommitting from Alabama. This comes on the heels of another pair of 5-stars from the 23 class entering the transfer portal in Caleb Downs and Caden Proctor. This, of course, more fallout from Nick Saban's retirement. Speaking of Downs and fellow 5-star, but in the 24 class, Julian Sayin will remain teammates, but as members of Ohio State squad. Ryan Day getting 2 massive pickups out of the portal. And over the weekend, the Polynesian Hall of Fame announcing its top high school player of the year award, and this year doing something unique. It went to 2 recipients, quarterbacks Isaac Wilson and Dylan Raiola. Our own Blair Angulo was at the Poly Bowl and caught up with Raiola as he readies for his freshman season at Nebraska.
I'm excited. I can't wait to get back up there. I'm going to enjoy this weather while I can because, it's in the negatives right now. But I'm just excited to get up there with my teammates and get to work. We have a great foundation Coach Will laid, last year. But, it's our job to take over and take this thing by the board. It's special to be out here where I grew up, all my friends and family, to be out here and be able to come to this game. It means a lot to me. I never played football growing up while I lived out here, but to have the opportunity to come play in front of a bunch of family and friends, I couldn't ask for anything better. I think it was a hard time. Coach Smart, what he does with his program is hard to turn away from, but I just felt a tug at my heart. I felt God had other plans for me, and that was to be going to Nebraska, and to be able to be a leader in that program. Bring Nebraska back with my teammates. I think it can be special, and I think it's one of the only places in the country that you can do that with. With the family legacy of my dad being there, and just how much the city and how much the state really pours into Nebraska. He really gave me no pitch. It was just really conversations, some hard conversations, and he really challenged me to really write everything out and to just lay everything out that I wanted to do. And I think I wrote everything out, and the last thing I wanted to do was, be a transformational leader. And to go to a program like that, I think it can be special. Georgia's the powerhouse now, and I have a lot of respect for that program, and they're going to continue great success and great things. But I think Nebraska's a college program that people have forgotten about, and I think it's about that time to wake that sleeping giant up. Coach Rule's, he's been preaching to his team that you can't look too far ahead, but at the same time, you have to prepare for those moments before they happen. So I think just the biggest thing is staying on the journey. The trajectory of the journey can change, but you just got to stay level-headed and stay grinding throughout the whole thing. I'm coming with a bunch of guys that want to win and guys that are starving to win and bring Nebraska back. So you guys keep showing up to the games, keep trusting and believing in us, and we're going to do some great things. They'll be great.
I'm still not over that 70-yard throw, and we're going to bring in two guys who saw it up close and personal. It's Blair Angulo and Brandon Huffman. Blair still bringing back a little bit of Hawaii with him with the fun shirt. Love to see it. I'll start with you because you talked to Dylan Raiola at the beginning of the week, but what did you see from him, Blair, during practices in the All-Star game?
Emily, he was really good all week, especially going through his progressions. That's something I really wanted to see. We know about the arm talent. We know about how special that arm action is. He can get the ball downfield with ease. But I wanted him to go through progressions and go to his second and third option, and I thought he did that really well throughout practice. And then we see the 70-yard throws during the long ball competition. No one matched that. He's got a special future ahead of him in Lincoln, and I think what he showed out in Hawaii is just a glimpse of what we can expect from him, even as a true freshman when he gets to Nebraska.
Yeah, and I think when you saw what Nico Iamaleava did last year in Honolulu for the Polynesian Bowl, Dylan would have a similar type of week, and he did. Looked good from the beginning of the week to the end of the week. Had a little bit of a slow start in the game, much like Nico did a year ago, where he threw an early interception, but then rallied his team to a win. You see just how effortless the ball comes out of his hand. And like our buddy Greg Biggins always says, he does have dynamite in his elbow, and it was evident in the two long tosses. But just even watching him practice, watching him throw the ball, it looked like it was so effortlessly coming out of his hand. It would go 40, 50 yards routine. He wasn't having to, take a running start to let go of the ball. It's just a very smooth, accurate release, and I think he's going to be doing big things in college these next couple of years.
All right, so Raiola clearly won the long throw, but the winner of Offensive MVP went to Tennessee wide receiver commit Mike Matthews. Nico Iamaleava is certainly hoping that he's a big weapon for him this season. But Huff, what about his performance this past week showed that he can be a day one contributor for the Vols?
Yeah, one of the things about Mike was that he didn't treat Hawaii like it was a vacation. He treated it like a business trip. Every day in practice, he was the first guy in line. He was the guy going to the front of the line for each rep, and he did each rep as if it was a business trip. It wasn't cruise control for him, and you saw him in the second half of the game really kind of take it over with a little short pass that he took and just turned the Jets on to get into the end zone. You see the explosiveness, you see the speed, you see how smooth he is as a pass catcher. And he talked about being in practice with the Bowl for a week with Tennessee before he went to the two All-American games. And he said he cannot wait to catch the ball from Nico. I can't wait to see him catch the ball from Nico myself from my television.
And when you think about competitiveness and when you think about some of these true freshmen that have to go into college and fight for a spot and make an impact right away, we saw glimpses of that from Mike Matthews. During practice, he was jawing with corners. He wasn't afraid to snap back if they told him they had shut him down. Even during the game, me and Brandon are standing next to each other on the sideline. We looked at each other because Mike Matthews had just pointed at another corner saying, "Hey, I'm coming for you." A few plays later, he scores a touchdown. So I think it's the headspace that he's in. I think it's that mentality that he brings to Knoxville that's going to make him really special. And obviously a five-star talent, another one for Nico Iamaleava.
Let's talk about some defenders. David Stone, who our friend Cooper just so lovingly referred to as a dog, and Jaden Jackson, both of those guys starring on the defensive line this past week, and both are committed to the Sooners. So what should Oklahoma fans know about these two incoming freshmen, Blair?
Emily, we've been breaking this down for a couple years now, how the Oklahoma Sooners have to get bigger and have to get stronger up front heading into the SEC. Look no further than David Stone and Jaden Jackson. They were dominant all week. It was a bit lax in terms of the offensive versus the defensive line battles that we usually get to see in Polynesian Bowl. There was a lot of travel delays across the country due to the weather, but there was only one day, and that was the day when both of these Oklahoma Sooners shined. And in the game, they were both really dominant. I think they turned that game around in the second half with how explosive and how disruptive they were up front. I think they've got all the potential to see the field early. It's a little bit tougher for defensive linemen to do so, especially in the SEC, but they have the motor, they have the work ethic, and the relentlessness to be able to get that done for Brent Venables.
One of the most fascinating things was David Stone coming in late because there was a travel delay getting him out to Hawaii. The first day of practice, he tweaked his ankle, and I thought, we've been to this game enough that guys are going to tap out when they get the injury. So what does he do the next day? He comes out and dominates and ends up being the alpha dog that day. Then he has a stellar game, and if it weren't for his late touchdown, he was getting pressure on the quarterbacks all day. Jaden Jackson would have been in contention for the MVP himself. He had a fumble recovery. He did it all on that. He had a sack, forced the fumble, and scored a touchdown that cut the lead to 3 and allowed for them to come back. But Jackson and Stone really making Brent Venables probably excited with what he was watching. Maybe he was jealous he didn't get to be in Honolulu to watch the game, but he can't be jealous that he gets both those guys to come and really help that defensive line when they get to Norman. I thought David Stone and Jaden Jackson both really cemented themselves as elite prospects, but David Stone was the best defensive lineman there from the beginning of the week until the end of the week and earned the defensive MVP honors during the game.
I do understand the jealousy of not being in Honolulu, so that's a very relatable experience for him. You guys also attended the Lineman Showcase Thursday night, where you saw Hawaii's #1 player in the 2025 class, Houston Ka'ahaina Torres. I hope I nailed that. He was actually named the Alpha Dog in that. So what did you see from him at that event, Huff?
We actually saw him 2 years ago, the first time Blair and I covered the Maui underclassmen event. There's a theme here. We get to go to Hawaii and get to see some great football, but he came and he had a wrist injury, so he didn't get to work out. Then he comes back last summer and earns an invite to the 2025 Under Armour All-American game. He played opposite four-star Rustin Young this past year at St. Louis, and now with Rustin Young headed to Michigan State, Houston will be the guy in Hawaii in 2025. Like we said, already been invited to the Under Armour game. He's going to play inside. He played tackle for St. Louis, but he showed the other night playing center that he is going to be an instant impact interior offensive lineman. That's the one position that a lot of guys need that year or two to really put on the weight and the strength and the quickness, but he already shows all of that, and he's going to be one of the top interior linemen in the 2025 class, and I thought he acquitted himself very nicely last week.
A lot of schools already in pursuit of Houston and his signature. Nebraska is a big offer. He's been there a couple times. Texas is a school that's monitoring him really closely. They've made an impact out on the islands in the last couple cycles. Arizona State, BYU, Michigan State would just sign the #1 player in the state of Hawaii in this 2024 cycle is also offered. So he's going to have his share of options. He's going to be able to, I think, even get even more offers coming into the spring evaluation period when more coaches get out to the islands and see him, because it's hard for me to envision there being a better center prospect in the country than Houston and what he's able to do.
Speaking of some open recruitments, I got one more question for you. Blair, you said that you thought that Terry Bussey was the best overall player there this week, and he is actually one of a few five-stars who is not signed. He is technically committed, though, to Texas A&M. So what can you tell us about maybe how he's feeling as he makes that final decision?
Still committed to Texas A&M, likes Coach Elko, likes what that staff has been able to tell him, but obviously he is still open to the process. Did not sign during the early period, intends to take an official visit to Georgia here coming up, also wants to take unofficials to LSU and Texas before getting back for one final official visit to Texas A&M. Has already been there in an official capacity. Prospects that go under a coaching change can go and take another official visit. So College Station is still the place where he feels the most comfortable, but I got vibes that maybe Georgia could be sneaking in there and getting him. They have the two new coaches in the secondary. They like him at corner. He says from a development standpoint, it could be the place that develops him the most and gets him ready and prepared for the NFL. And so I have an inkling, and just catching up with Greg Bingham's out in Hawaii, who caught up with Terry Bussey out in Orlando for the Under Armour game. He also got Georgia vibes. So look out for Kirby Smart and the Bulldogs to potentially get a late flip here into signing day.
2 years ago, they tried to get a late flip in state in Travis Hunter, the two-way prospect who ended up flipping from Florida State to Jackson State. Well, now Georgia is leaving their state to potentially get the top two-way prospect in 2024 in Terry Bussey. This is the guy who was our alpha for the entire week. When we did our final Poly Bowl superlative story, he was our top prospect. He was the alpha dog. He could have been an alpha dog at either position. Started at wide receiver for his team and then had an interception playing corner in the game. 2 years ago, Travis Hunter was one of the co-MVPs of the game. 2 years later, Terry Bussey himself showed that he's a two-way star. And there's a reason that Georgia and LSU are trying to flip him from Texas A&M. There's a reason why Texas A&M is holding on like crazy to keep the in-state guy there, because this kid is absolutely electric. I saw him 2 years ago at the National Prep Showcase in Las Vegas, and I think he had a couple offers. We were talking about that in Hawaii, and now he is one of the premier players in all of this class, regardless of position. And he is that one intriguing player to watch between now and February 7th when signing day happens. Whoever gets him is going to get one of the most exciting players that we've seen in recent years.
I love it. Huff, Blair, thank you both. Appreciate the sacrifice going out to Hawaii for us. As always, much appreciated. They mentioned potential signing day drama, but here at 24/7 Sports, it's not just National Signing Day. We are celebrating signing week from February 4th through the 8th. We are dropping content on your favorite team, so make sure that you are keeping it locked right here on the 24/7 Sports YouTube page. It is what we like to call Free Game Monday, the segment where we dish out some free advice, and by we, I mean Smoke Dixon, our national college football analyst, also former athlete, former general manager, so you see all the recruiting game from every side, every point of view, and so that's what we're going to focus on today. For a recruit's standpoint, step one as they start this process is creating that athletic profile. So what goes into putting that together?
Well, when you create this athletic profile, what you're trying to do is create a one-stop shop. So when I click on that, I don't want to go to anywhere else other than stay on that page and I can find all the information. Now, the information that you need on there, right, you need your high school information, contact information, verified measurables on there. Have that linked up also to your huddle where you have 7-on-7 footage on there. You have your workout footage on there. If you're a multi-sport athlete, have some footage on there as well too, in order just to get me going some more, to let me know how well you can actually play and be an athlete. And on your links that you have on there, make sure that all the information is updated and is current. Make sure that if you have a marketing agent, that their information is on there as well too. So if I do need to get in contact with somebody and allow you to earn some extra money or find a way to grow your marketing ability, they'll be on there as well too.
Yeah, I mean, there are tens of thousands of prospects across the country, so however you can make it easier on the person viewing your profile, definitely the better. So there is a right way and there is a wrong way to go about putting an athletic profile together. What are some of the biggest mistakes that you see from prospects?
My number one biggest bug was incorrect verified measurables. If you said you were 6'2" and you're actually 5'9" and a quarter, miss. If I'm trying to get a hold of you and you don't have the correct information on there in terms of contact information, what a miss. I have to go so many avenues just to find you. And if I didn't love you to begin with, I'm not going to like you that much in order to find you and to get all the information that I do need to get moving forward. And then if we get to the huddle, when you have your huddle information and your highlights, it's okay to create some good plays and some not so good plays so I can see it. Have complete game footage also on your huddle. And when you do have your highlights, please stop with the explicit music.
Yeah.
As a 43-year-old man, I don't need to hear all that stuff. Most of the time, if not 99.9% of the time, I mute that stuff. Don't have those pop-ups. Wow, look at this. Boom, look at this hit. And if you're a slow guy, please don't cut the tape off when you're getting caught. Or if you're a DB that dropped the interception, just let it go all the way through, because most of the time, I'm going to watch that tape and also create my good and bad ugly film on you as well too, moving forward.
Yeah, the window dressing can make it seem like they're distracting maybe from the type of player that they actually are. Keep it simple.
Let your tape talk for you.
Exactly.
You don't need to do a lot of the talking for yourself.
Exactly. Okay, so in this day and age, which is different than what you and I dealt with when we were once athletes, NIL is becoming more and more of a factor. When I think money is involved, I need to go call an agent. What's your take on that?
You don't need an agent. Your film and your academics are going to get you recruited. I would tell you to go hire a marketing agent so you can create other venues for yourself and have avenues to gain more finances for yourself outside of the athletic part. Because what you are on the field, that's going to help, that's going to drive how much you're going to get in NIL. What you can do off of the field, give you another stream of income, that's another bag that you're getting into. So forget those quote unquote NIL agents, because they're not real. You want to get a marketing agent that's going to go out there and do real work for you outside the athletic part of it. Because what you do on the field, you handle that on your own. And whatever you're going to get anyway. You're not going to be a 100,000 player and your agent comes in, so I think this guy should get $1 million because I just ran down the University of whatever, State College, and they said he can get 1.5. I know you're lying, because most of the time I'm going to call that guy up and say, hey, listen, you just offer that guy 1.5? He's like, heck nah. Then you become a liar and I can't trust you. And if I can't trust you, that love for you is going to go down.
It's not just the contracts, though, and the money and everything. If I'm reading a document that a lawyer drew out, I might be a little confused about the language and making sure, we talk about protecting yourself and making sure that you're not getting fooled by any of these deals. So what can athletes do to protect themselves from that standpoint, to make sure that whatever the language is that's written in there is fair?
Hire a lawyer, pay him by the hour, instead of paying someone a percentage of what you're getting paid. Do what real business people do. Hire someone that takes care of contracts, have them go through that contract so you're set up properly, and that you're not binded by any of those languages in there. And they can read all that through you and explain it to you better than that NIL agent that did not go to law school. And you only pay him by the hour, like I said. And once you finish paying that lawyer, write that check, sign off, move on. You're not paying a percentage of what you're earning for yourself.
So you talk about the benefit of marketing yourself and making sure that as many people see you as possible. Some athletes might be thinking, I go to this small school in the middle of nowhere, no one's ever going to see me, I need to transfer to this bigger, better, more prestigious high school. What do you think about that?
You don't necessarily need to go to a big high school.
Okay.
Look at our number one player, DJ Lagway. He's a young man that started out on a school that weren't the winning school. And what he started out, he became better. And every year you saw that growth. And with that growth, he got to his school to a state championship. And I always looked at players as this. You're either a win with or win because of. The win with players, I have to have a bunch of other players around you in order to win. Win because of, you're going to help me win no matter what that team is. If you're on defense, you're going to make the offense wrong. If you're on offense, no matter what those 11 players are doing, you're going to make us right. So I always wanted to find out what player could go to the worst school and get that school to play at their best. That means the reason why they're winning has a lot to do with you through leadership, forming a culture, and I don't necessarily have to go get a ton of guys around you in order to help us win.
I love that you used the DJ Lagway example, because the quarterback that he just passed in our rankings that we previously revealed on this show is a guy, Dylan Raiola, who went to 4 different high schools. And so sometimes it can be a benefit to be seen, but sometimes that can be seen as a red flag for hopping around.
Look at the NFL draft. Yeah. Every year you see guys that the Josh Allens of the world started out as a 0-star and worked his way into one of the best.
Yeah, stuck it out at Wyoming, was still able to get some good film. They'll find you, right? A good way for them to find you, though, is at some camps. So what is your advice for handling the camp circuit?
I'm going to go back to the way that I handled the camp when I was coming out. I've always thought that you need to be a regional guy. But looking at this landscape that we're currently in, you have to create that buzz yourself. So I would always hit a camp in the Northeast, right, create my buzz there. Southeast, make sure I get the South on lock, get into the Midwest. And now the West Coast is coming east and the East is going west. Go out to one of those West Coast schools and perform. And when you go out there, be coachable. Do all the drills possible. Make contacts and collect information for the staffers, not just the coaches, the staffers out there, because they're the ones that's going to be connecting with you. And this is a word travels business and a copycat business. So if you get an offer from, let's say, Bama, Ohio State, Georgia, Florida, USC, Oregon, everyone's going to offer you moving forward.
All right. One quick viewer question I want to get to. How long should my huddle highlight reel be? Give me like in the minutes.
In the minutes, you should create about a 3-minute highlight.
3 minute.
Right.
Okay.
And once you get off of that, because you can only get my attention span for that long before I really want to either turn it off or turn on your game footage.
All right. 3 minutes, no explicit video, no crazy, look at this, check it out.
Pow.
Keep
wow.
it simple, pow. I would love to see some of the film that you've been through over the years, but I appreciate you bringing the stories to us. And of course, Free Game Monday, we love it. If you have any questions for him, you can find him on Twitter. You can ask him in the YouTube chat. We'll go through and we'll answer them as much as possible. Smoke, thank you so much. Hey, thank you for watching. Be sure that you are tuned in this week because #CommitHQ is up and running. Tune in Saturday at 2:55 Eastern, not a minute earlier, to find out where the number 31 player in the country, offensive tackle Carter Lowe, is headed. His finalists are Bama, Georgia, Tennessee, Ohio State, and Michigan. Also, check out the brand new Top 247 on the 24/7 Sports YouTube page. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Emily Proud, and this is the College Football Recruiting Show.